Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Behind the Camera with Charisse Glenn and Joshua Rappaport, only on LA Talk Radio.
Sounded so formal, Joshua Rappaport.
Joshua.
Like you're in trouble.
Hello, Joshua.
Hello, Charisse, and hello to Francine Weiner.
Hello.
Francine is joining us today. Francine is a longtime television commercial producer
Right.
from the production company side of things. Now, we'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
This is Behind the Camera. It's a ongoing conversation about acting and everything that happens behind the camera for actors. Charisse and I are both casting directors here in Los Angeles for 30 plus years. Francine's been a producer for a number of years. And
Basically, we're all old timers.
yeah, we're all a bunch of old people. You can call us if you like at area code 323-203-0815. That's 323-203-0815. Of course, we're on Facebook Live.
Well, we
Well-
will be on Facebook Live as soon as I have some internet to be able to push us over there.
I don't want to say anything, but every week it seems to be Facebook Live is more of an issue than
Oh my
can
gosh!
be.
But you can always call in with your questions, and if you're on my Facebook anyway, you can private message me, and we'll get your live questions. But last year, so what happens every week is everybody comes up with their questions after the fact. So one of the questions that came
Oh,
during the
good.
week,
I love questions.
I love questions too. You might like this question too.
We'll see.
So an actor asks me, I'm not booking with my agent. Should I change agency?
Are they going out?
Well, that information was not given. So let's say they
Well-
are not going out. Your response would be,
If they're not going out, then there is something to be said about the idea of getting a new agent. If they're going out and they're not booking, that has nothing to do with the agent.
right. So if you're going out, you're getting the audition, which
Yes.
is what the agent's job is to get you the audition,
Correct.
and you are not getting a callback or you're not booking. It's not your agent's responsibility, and another agent is not going to do better for you.
No. Then it's a matter of your performance, your ability to woo a crowd or get people enticed to want to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now this brings up an interesting thing about when you leave your agents. I think there's a whole process that has to be gone through to leave your agent. I don't think you can just one day walk into your agency and say, I'm gone, goodbye.
Well, of course, if you signed a contract
You
too,
have to
right?
get closer.
If you signed a contract.
Well, the contract is only, a SAG's contract is only good if you've made any money in the last 90 days.
Okay.
So if you haven't made any money, you can just walk out on your contract, but I don't think you're doing yourself a service. I think the first step is to, in my estimation, the first step is to go to your agent and not say, I'm not getting out. Ask, what can I do to help you sell me?
Mm-hmm.
And if the agent most likely will say, you need new headshots, or it's really slow out right now, or various number of reasons. Try to address all those issues. If you need new headshots, I'm not saying you have to go and spend a ton of money and get new headshots, but try to get new headshots. Try to do what your agent asks of you. Months later or a month later, if you're still not going out, go back into your agent, give them another opportunity.
I think this is a good point. It's not always the agent's responsibility. Once you have an agent, it is their responsibility to get your photographs in front of the casting directors,
Right.
and then the casting directors pulling you from the photographs. However, what can happen is that your photographs are not representative of what you look
Wow,
like.
that's,
Right.
So I call you in, and you look like you do in person when you come in, but your headshot looks like you were 10 years younger. So I'm
you
going
mean
to
like my headshot in the lobby?
kind of like your
Exactly.
headshot in the lobby,
Right.
or the one we have posted. So what will happen with that is, even though your agent is submitting your picture, and to people that don't know you, they go, oh, this person's perfect. And then they see you and they go, he's perfect, not for this age range.
Right.
So then I'm going to stop pulling you in for the things they're submitting you for, because they're not submitting you correctly
Right.
based on your photograph, which then could be because you haven't been into your agency to see them for a very long time.
See, this gets into a whole thing about agents and what's your relationship with your agent. I mean, you make 90%, they make 10%. Who's in charge of the relationship? you would think it would be you. But the agents will tell you it's them. But what I think is it's a 50-50 relationship. If they don't do their 10% of the work, you can't make your 90% of the money. And just like it's up to you to be able to perform so that they can make their 10%. So you have to have a working relationship where it's you both are part of the decision-making process. So if you have the standard example is you have one headshot that your agent loves and you hate, and you have a headshot that you love and your agent hates, which one do you pick? And I always say try and find one in the middle. Try and find one you can both live with, or defer to your agents on the first choice because they have more experience being out trying to sell you in the marketplace.
Well, it's funny, years ago, and we will get to Francine in just a moment. Years ago, I used headshots my agents hated. They absolutely hated them.
Why'd they hate them?
It was before, it was when headshots were still headshots, just a 2-button headshot, straight to the camera, no hands, nothing. This was a 3/4 shot. I'm leaning up against a wall. My arms are wrapped around my knees. I'm looking sideways. I have a very dour look on my face.
What?
I'm not smiling. And they're going, this is not commercial. It was not commercial. I love the picture. That was my last headshot I ever used. And I got a lot of work
that's
from it.
funny.
Because it was, what happens is, well, now it's on computer, right? But it was, remember, the 8x10s.
Right.
So you're going through 8x10s, and it would stop the casting directors in their tracks because it was a different format.
And was
So
it
they
black
had
and
to-
white?
Yeah, everything was black and
Yeah.
white then. Hmm.
Yeah, I still love black and white. That's still the art of it.
But my eyes had the right,
Well, that's the thing that you're trying to, what you're trying to get in your headshots is you're trying to capture your character. You're
Right.
trying to capture some character, a character, any character, your character. And you have to, I always say, you have to be thinking when you're getting your headshots. You have to have an intent. You can't just be smiling, because then you have a headshot that's just smiling. And it's kind of, anyway.
So, okay, that was the question of the day. So, hi.
And that was a good answer.
Hey,
Hey, Francine.
Hey, guys.
Oh, tandem.
Yeah.
So you were a production company producer. Now there are two producers on a
She
commercial.
still is.
Yeah,
Current.
it's
Yeah, current day.
There are two producers.
I'm
on
not dead yet.
No, you're very much alive and
Thank
sitting
you.
right here. There are two producers on a commercial, correct?
Yes. There's two sides to the commercial. There's a line producer who produces for the production company, who is the director's producer. Then there's the agency producer, who is on the advertising agency side. So
What's the differentiation? What are the different responsibilities?
it's so different. So for a line commercial producer, our responsibility is to just produce production. We do pre-production, which is the casting, location scouting. I say that I'm always saying that I'm a prep chef for the chef.
Yeah.
Getting all the ingredients
Right.
together for the chef to make his masterpiece. So that's basically casting, crewing, location scouting,
Equipment,
everything.
permits.
Everything, yes, to be able to make the production happen. The agency side is they're there for the concept of the commercial. They're dealing directly with the client. So let's say it's Josh underwear. They're dealing with
How
Josh.
did you know I was coming out with Josh underwear?
I could tell. I can see your label.
Oh, stop.
And they deal directly with the client, right? So then the agency's responsibility is to get the idea that they sold their client produced
On camera.
on camera. So they do the media buys, they do the post-production, they are responsible for music, all the editing.
Now, as a line producer, do you follow it into post-production?
No, most of the time not. Mm-mm.
So you're really just before the shoot day, and maybe one day wrap, and you're done and on to another project.
Right, exactly. And we hand it over to the agency producer, and they take care of all the post, all the editing, all the finishing.
And what kind of interaction is there between the two sides? I mean, do you have conflicts with the agency producers, or is it that your realms are just completely different?
No, I mean, my success, I believe, has always been to align myself with the agency, because really it's a team effort. You're going to the same goal. You want to get the
Right.
best end product that you possibly can. So you've got to be very transparent. You've got to protect the budget, and you have to keep your director Well, you have to keep everybody happy. A line producer and the production company has to keep everybody happy.
Right.
But you have to do that in a way that doesn't jeopardize the integrity of what you're doing.
Right.
But you have to keep a lot of people happy, basically. So, but to back to your question, I like to work tandem with the agency producer.
Right.
And have complete open conversation. And if there's a problem, they know it. If there's something, that's great, they know it. It's all about transparency, in my opinion.
Right.
Some people don't operate that way, but I feel that you have to be transparent because there's so many things that you do need help with. You can't do everything yourself. You can
Right.
get the crew, but there's things that come up that you've got to talk to your agency producer.
Well, you're exactly right in the idea that everybody's on the same team, and we I don't know if we talked about this or not. It's always interesting to me. Sometimes when you're in callbacks, it's the first time the director has met the agency.
Right. Usually.
So
usually.
it's always that weird sort of thing of, do they get along? Are they going to see eye to eye? How are they on the same team? And it's a matter of trying to build that team.
A lot of times that's true, and especially now these days with the budgets being what they are.
Which is what?
Very lean. There's usually no time. It used to be back in the day, a lot of times the agency was involved in the casting.
Right.
And directors would go to the casting, which became very laborious. I mean, you have to see every single person, and how many people do you bring into a session, Charisse? You bring in so many people. So that's when it came to, let's do sessions. Let's see the sessions online.
Well, now it's online, but it used to be videotape.
Or videotape.
We used to do videotape.
Exactly.
But what's interesting is when I started casting, I worked for a casting director who we had mostly agency direct.
Mm-hmm.
So the production company was not at the helm of the whole thing, but you work with a lot of directors that they're hiring the casting director. We've talked about this, that the casting director, I always say, has two parents, the ad agency on one hand and the production company on the other. And I always think of the ad agency as sort of being the mom.
Right.
The ad agency really has the power. Now, wouldn't you agree that in this time of what we're doing, that the director really has just become another cog in the wheel, as opposed to in the 80s and 90s when they were really driving what the look of the commercial was?
Yes and no.
Uh-huh.
I think that, I know the directors that I work with all have their favorites. I mean, that's how I met Charisse, because she was a must hire. Luckily, she's brilliant, and we got along. But most times the directors have their casting directors. I've only come up against dictates with Latin or different language
Right.
casting directors. If we're doing Hispanic spots, let's say,
Right.
they recommend Hispanic market casting directors.
Right.
But for general market, usually they've got their faves that they go to.
Right.
Okay. So you can see what I'm almost live.
Oh, there you are.
She's-
There we are.
But they actually put the wrong show
Oh.
on the show.
Oh.
But anyway,
Oh.
so I appreciate the work. Thank you very much. We
You're
all
welcome.
appreciate the work. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, because all of that is interesting and I love it, but I really want to talk about what your perspective is about the actors, what they do to get the job, what they do to not get rehired. I know you and I were speaking one day about certain directors that you work with like to rehire the same person over and over. So what is it that the actor's doing that makes that possible?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. One director I used to work with a lot in the 90s used the same person over and over and over again, and it finally got to the point where the clients would say, we've seen him too much.
Well, now, doesn't this also limit the director in that the directors, I don't think people realize, have reels that they send out to ad agencies to get hired. And if the ad agency starts seeing a reel with the same actor in a dozen commercials, isn't that a detriment to the director?
It is, but directors aren't going to put that on their reels. They're very specific, and their executive producers are very involved in their reels. So that's not going to happen.
It's the marketing of the director.
Yeah, but getting back to what your question was, Charisse, there's a lot of actors that are professional actors, and they know how to take direction. And I'm not saying that comes from experience or not, but directors like to have people that they can rely on,
Right.
because it helps them get their point across. There's some actors I've come across that I would never hire if I see them being put in by their casting people or their agents. I've had bad experiences. I've had people not show up. I've had people
Literally not show up to the
literally
set.
not show up to the set, or forgot about it, or all sorts of reasons. And what people don't understand is time is money on a set.
Well,
And
yeah.
it's incredibly expensive. So that's one thing. That's a notch that person has against them. The other thing is people will say they can do something, a skill.
It's one of my pet peeves.
Yeah, that they can't do. So now I've had that happen so many times. I mean, I had somebody say they could ride a motorcycle. This is way back. And we were out, I don't remember where, on the back end of Mojave or somewhere.
Right.
And the guy got on their motorcycle and crashed it and injured himself. We had to airlift him out.
Oh my God.
no.
So there went that day, right? Now there's production insurance, but still you don't want that to happen. Now, when I'm producing and there's a special skill set, I'll have a rehearsal day or a test day, or have the casting director, let's say they need to know how to skateboard. So the casting director will go out to a park with the actors and the talent and video them skateboarding. So we know for sure that person is, true to what they're saying.
I always say if there is a skill that has to be done, you have to do it in
Yeah.
casting.
Yeah.
You have to find the extra budget in your casting budget to see the person demonstrate that skill. It's because there's too much at risk
Right.
on the
right.
production day.
And people are going to respect your honesty. If you're in a session and if someone says, can you do 90 sit-ups in one time, in a minute, and if you can't, say you can't. They'll respect that more so than saying that you can, and then you get yourself in a position where you can't do it.
So how often, and I have my opinion, I'm sure you do too, how often is a skill required at the beginning of the job? I mean, they have to be top level of a certain skill, and then when it really comes down to it, they don't.
How often?
Yeah, how often is that?
It's so hard to say. I mean, in my experience, in my years, that I'm not going to say how many, I'd say probably special skills have come in maybe 30%, 40%, not maybe about 30%.
So they like people to look the part,
Right.
that have a certain feel that they could do the part, but sometimes it's not required, even though on the initial casting, we are asking everybody to do it to the 10th level.
Well, this gets into a lot of different things. In casting, you're asking somebody to do something continuously that on the shoot, it might be a 2-second shot.
Mm-hmm.
So they only have to do it for, a half a beat. But I also feel that if I'm trying to cast somebody who, say, is a beginning gymnast, I'm going to try and get people who just missed the Olympic team to act like they can't do it, as opposed to having people who really can't do it act like they can do it.
And that's a really good point, because those people have endurance.
They have endurance.
And there's
right.
going to be a lot of takes. There's another thing too that I've run into in the past, and it's not funny, but at the time it's not funny. Then you think back on it. I've had people do commercials, and I don't remember what the product was, where they said that they ate meat,
Right.
or they said that they ate ice cream, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they're food commercials, and food commercials are really specific. People, they have to bite certain things a certain way. They've got to hold the product a certain way, so on and so forth. And I've had more actors get sick
Sure.
on sets and granted, you're asked to eat a lot. A lot of times, the actors know not to swallow. Take a bite,
Spit bag.
and then you've got your spit pail next to you,
Right.
so you don't, some people don't know that. Some people take the whole bite.
That one's toughest with kids.
Yeah.
Try and get a kid to understand to spit out, something, especially if it's ice cream or candy or something like that. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you got to spit that out. But how many takes are you going to do?
Exactly. And sometimes I did a job with Howie Mandel, one of his first commercials. Was it? I don't even think that was the one. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't Howie's commercial. It was another actor's, and he could not say the word. And there was like, oh, these chicken strips are delicious, and would have to take a bite. And for some reason, it came out sounding like chicken shit or chicken, instead of chicken strips, it came out, it just didn't sound right. So it was constantly, and the more that he started to do it, the more it didn't sound right to him. So
Right.
we had to like walk away from that particular setup to give him a break from eating and to get him to be able to reprogram his head to say the line.
Now, this brings up an interesting question. How often are you on set where you have to change concept or change what you're doing because it's not working? Do you ever get to the point where you're on the set and even though it's been mapped out and everybody thinks it's going to work exactly, and then they finally see it and they realize it's not working and you have to sort of shift gears? Does that happen very often?
Yeah, but that's not, most of the times it's not the responsibility that the actor's not doing a good job or they're not doing delivery.
Right.
It's the concept that's not happening
Right.
or the wording's not happening. Yeah, that happens a lot.
We were talking about dialogue last week and how often the dialogue's scripted out. We know it, the actors learn it, they come to set, they know it, and it's like, oops, sorry, we've changed it. And they get handed new dialogue as they're recording.
That's when the
Cue cards?
Cue
cue cards come up, which that's happened too quite a lot.
So part of being on production is going with the flow.
Going with the flow and being able to anticipate any problems before they happen. You have to be really prepared. You've got to have an A, B, C, and D plan. And even if the D plan doesn't work, you got to go to E. And they all have to be really solid plans, even if they're not the A plan.
So what advice would you give to an actor going on to, a complicated set, a set they're going to be doing activities, dialogue?
Well,
It might be special effects or something like that. I mean, do you have any advice for actors?
Well, the first advice I have, which doesn't have to do with anything that you guys just said, is one of my biggest pet peeves in the business ever with actors is their agents. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of the actors have a commercial agent, they have a print agent, they have a theatrical agent, and none of those people talk to each other.
Right.
So when we're casting for talent on a job, you have to have a first choice, a second choice, and usually a backup choice. Because if the agency and the director love the first choice, but that doesn't mean that the client's going to. So they have to have a second choice that they'll be happy with and a third choice. It's happened to me, I'd say probably 50% of my career, and that's a lot.
Wow.
Where the agents aren't talking to one another. And we'll push through our first choice because the director and the creative people of the agency pick this person for a reason. They love this person. They want this person to represent their product. And we have a pre-pro meeting, and the client doesn't necessarily agree with the director and the creatives, and they really try to sell this person. Okay, now they've done it. They've sold the person to the client. Now it comes a couple, and the pre-pros are usually, now we have pre-approved talent. We don't wait until the pre-pro because the pre-pro is usually a day or 2 days before the shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Now we try to get locations and talent pre-approved like a week before.
Right.
So there's no room for error. But it wasn't always that way. And we would go ahead and call an agent and say, okay, so-and-so, I want to book this person. Great. Yeah, and then you wait. They say they're booked. Everything's great. We've sold it to the client who really didn't want that person to begin with.
Right.
And then I get a call, usually from the casting director saying, I have really bad news. That person was available when they came in for casting, but they've been booked on a 3-day theatrical, or they have a print shoot campaign.
Right.
So now we have to go back, have another meeting, and there's a million people involved in these meetings. It's not just 3 people and they'll give you a quick answer. There's a bunch of different levels it's got to go through, and you've got to tell the second person.
So whose responsibility is that? Is it the talent's responsibility to know what each of his agents is doing? Because the talent does know the dates when they go on to a casting, right? They know the callback. They've been to the callback. They know the shoot dates. So whose responsibility is it? Ultimately, I think it's the talent.
Yeah,
I think it's a talent.
Yeah,
too.
I think it should be the talent.
It's on the actor because I've had a situation where we had booked somebody, She had accepted the booking. They were basing the entire campaign around her. And we had 2 days of callbacks. And on the second day of callback, we found out that she's now not having the booking and accepted a theatrical job instead. And, I ended up losing a client out of it because they were so livid. How can you have somebody that we booked then choose to not do it?
Well, it's in a SAG contract that an actor, even though they've been to callback, they can elect not to do the job.
Oh, an actor can back out
they
at
can-
any time.
At any time.
An actor can back out at any time. This is a crazy thing that I don't want to get
Not
too
to say
far.
we approve of it, but-
Not to get too far into it either, though. But what I find strange is if you, as a producer, say, "I'm going to book you, Charisse," and it's a Screen Actors Guild job, and then 20 minutes later, your agency comes and says, "No, we don't want Charisse. We want somebody else." You're still obligated to pay Charisse if she's accepted that booking.
If I'm an actor.
If she's an actor,
Yes.
you're
If she's booked, yeah. If
she's
it's been a
booked,
confirmed booking,
if it's
yes.
a confirmed
Mhm,
booking, you're
mhm.
still obligated to pay her,
A session fee.
even though she might back out.
Right.
But the actor can
No.
accept the booking.
Even though she's backing out?
No, unless if you've canceled the
Yes,
actor.
yes.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Excuse me. You're
Right.
correct.
No.
But if the actor accepts the booking and then decides they don't want to do it, they can just walk away, and there's no penalty to the actor. And that always drives me crazy. I'm an actor myself. I'm a Screen Actors Guild member, but it just seems like they're not fostering the idea that the actor has to be responsible for their own decisions.
Well, I think that's one of the number one problems we run into often is the actor's not responsible for their decisions. Like I'm doing a job right now where I'm asking everybody before they come in on the casting, you must have a valid passport that is valid for 6 months from the day it shoots. That's easy. Some people say, I don't have a passport. They don't come in.
Right.
It's the actors that come in that have an expired passport.
Well,
It's like, but that's not a valid passport. And then they throw it back on me. Well, you can pay for the expediting passport. It's like, no.
it's not my responsibility.
That's not my responsibility. It's
mhm.
your responsibility as an actor.
Right.
You have to have your paperwork valid in order for us to hire you. And I run into it constantly.
Which
constantly.
I know you have something to say too, but what I just want to add to all actors who are listening, it's your responsibility to have a valid passport in this day and age. Because of so many things are shooting all over the world, doing all sorts of things. It's really sort of a prerequisite
Right.
of being a professional actor right now. And you were going to say something.
Well, I don't remember what it was, but you saying a professional actor, there's another thing that just happened to me recently this year. Eyelash extensions and fake nails, these long fake nails are really popular with a lot of certain type people. And we were casting a job for a certain type, and there was this really beautiful, we were casting models, but they were actresses, they're models. And beautiful girl. And the director was crazy about her, the photographer everybody's crazy about her. She had extensions and she had these nails, and they wanted a natural look. So we said to her, we love you, would you be willing to get your eyelashes removed and your nails? We'll pay for that, and we'll pay to have them put back on. No problem. She shows up to the set of the day with the eyelashes on and the nails. And I'm somewhere and I hear on the walkie-talkie, Francine, go to 2, and you come to the set. Well, everyone's looking at me saying, didn't you tell her? And of course I did. Told the agent, everybody. So I said to this guy, what's the deal? She said, well, it was just too hard to get my lashes off, and it was too hard to get my nails off. And we had to get a replacement on the day.
Yeah.
Because we had the backup, and we had to find the backup. And luckily the backup was available and not that far away. But we lost probably
Hours.
2.5 hours waiting
Right.
for the replacement to come. So if somebody asks you to do something, and if you don't want to do it, don't tell them you don't want to do it.
Just be
say
open.
no.
Just
Yeah.
again,
Say no.
Just be honest.
the transparency. It's all. It really is that. It's you're going to get so much further with that. This girl, and I'm sure that one time isn't going to stop her career, but it's going to really. It stays in my mind that this girl has no.
You know what it
You know-
speaks to for me though is the attitude, the approach. The idea that you can do what you want to do and they'll either like, and that's not the actor's position. The actor's position is to fulfill the needs of the client, in a commercial especially. You're there to do your job and fill their needs. And if they want you, this goes into wardrobe. It's, I never understood people at wardrobe fittings who would say, oh, I don't like this. It's like, they're paying you a lot of money. You wear it. Now, if it's not comfortable and not safe, we've talked about this. If I always think you should be wearing your own shoes just for comfort's sake. But your job as the actor is to fulfill that they need, not to fulfill your.
And on that point, when you're filling out your size cards,
Right? No,
be honest about that, because there's been so many times when I'll get a call from the wardrobe stylist, because sometimes to save time, you
Right.
send the stylist, most of the time, you send the stylist out, you say, here are the people that we're considering, and here are their size cards. And they go and they pull a bunch of clothes in these sizes that are on the size cards.
Right.
And then somebody shows up and the stylist says to me, I thought you said she was a size, or her size card says she's a size 6, she's a size 12 or something.
Well, now this comes down to the thing with women's clothes. Women, it's difficult. Are you a 2? You're a 4. You're a 0. You're a 6. You're a 14. Every different thing runs differently. But what I say is height, weight, and measurements don't lie. And you have to be honest about those things. A good wardrobe stylist, if they know how tall you are, how much you weigh, and what your measurements are, they can figure that out. And you might have said a 6, and they know you're a 12. They're going to figure that out. But I got booked on a job. I was flown to Dallas to do a car commercial, and I've got very short legs, and I always hated putting down a short inseam, so I put down 32/30s or 32/32 for the pant size, and they had bought me pants, and I put the pants on, and they go way to the floor, and I look up, and the wardrobe stylist is looking at me like, I hate your guts, because she then had to hem the pants, and I learned my lesson right then. It's better to just tell the truth about your sizes and be honest about it, so that people can suit you properly.
It's not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but most of the time, you're being chosen for your acting ability. Yeah, you have a particular look, but if you're if you say you're a size 2 and you're really a size 4 or 6, you're not going to not get the job because
Right.
you're a few sizes off. It's not about that. We don't look at the size sheets and go, wow, well, she's got to be a good because she's a size 2, or a size 10,
Well, it's-
Well, you've also booked the job based on what you look like today.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes your sizes, you haven't updated them. So they're based on last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. So
This is always I'm flashing back to memories. I remember when we used to have to take Polaroids of everybody, and somebody would come and go, "Oh, I hate my Polaroid," and it's like, yeah, they're going to look at you, watch your audition, then they're going to look at your Polaroid, and go, "No, we can't hire him. He's got a bad Polaroid." It's like that's putting the cart before the horse. Do you know? That's not what's going to get you or not get you the job, but being honest in your sizes makes it a lot easier for everybody, and your skills and abilities.
Getting back to the sizes for a moment, I know that when you're on as an actor and you're on set and you're trying on clothes, and it is your size, but it doesn't fit you.
Right.
It's okay to say, I can't get my arm in this, or
Right.
I can't move in
Right.
this. It's okay to say certain things don't fit. Because you don't like it, that's not a valid point. But if it doesn't work for you, it's okay to say okay.
Right.
It's okay to
Absolutely.
say no.
Yeah.
Well, it's beneficial for everybody. That you don't want to force yourself into something that you can't move, and then they say, "Okay, reach up and grab that thing," and you're like, "I can't do it
Right.
because I."
Well, you split
and they've
your
already
pants.
and if they have already shot something with you in that wardrobe, and now that wardrobe isn't working for you, now you got to go back and reshoot what you already did, and you don't have time to do that in a day.
I just have one thing about the eyelashes, because I was on set over the summer, and the makeup woman, we were talking, and she had the same problem with the eyelashes. And the woman didn't have the eyelashes on the audition, and came and put them on because she thought she was going to look better on
Yeah,
camera.
it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, and they were,
Yeah.
butterflies on her eyes.
dead caterpillar. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a problem. And people don't understand the time is money. And if you aren't transparent, and if there is an issue, that's another notch in your not to be welcome back belt.
Right.
Because you weren't transparent, you weren't honest.
Right.
So
Okay, so we've hit skills. Don't lie about your height, weight, or sizes.
Don't be artificial, and if you do now, what about if you wanted to? You know, my hair is silver. If you wanted to color my hair and things like that, you got to be honest about whether you would be willing to have that done.
Right, and or beard shaved for men.
But
Or
that's usually addressed before
Yeah,
you even
beforehand.
book it.
yeah,
Right.
because we say, he's great, but he looks a little too young, so we're going to want to spray and tip his hair and
Oh, please, yes,
add
I
some-
look too young.
and,
Thank you.
and add something, make sure he's okay with that. And I mean, I've put extensions on women, all sorts of things, but you always have to get the okay before you book them, because
Right.
if you're not willing to do it, you're not going to get booked.
Right.
And you can be okay not to want to do it for whatever reason it is. If somebody wanted to cut your hair, I remember dealing with an actress, and that was where the extensions came in. That's what it was. It was for a beauty campaign, and the actress had her hair long, I think it was, and she was then doing a movie, and they had to cut her hair, and she didn't tell us.
Oh no.
And the client booked her with the long hair.
Right.
So I've always learned to, when I have hair people, and bring extensions. We're using an African American person. Bring
Wigs
or we're using a Hispanic person, or we're using whatever it is. Be prepared to do a multitude of things.
This goes to something that actors should know is once you've booked a job, don't cut your hair, don't shave, don't do anything that's going to drastically alter your physical.
Don't do a spray on tan.
Yeah, don't do anything that's going to physically alter
Don't
yourself.
go snowboarding.
Right.
But that's a really good point for men. The beards is a big deal, because
Right.
when you come in with a beard or scruffy and you shave, and they booked you because, oh yeah, he looks like a scruffy dad that's going to be up in the attic,
Right.
and you've shaved, then that's a whole nother thing. Then
Right.
the makeup, it's you've got to really be cognizant.
This goes to pre-production though, and the idea that you as the producer would tell me, the casting director, make sure to tell him not to shave, and so but actors should know that once you're okayed and got a job from the callback, you really should not drastically change your
Or
look.
it could also be, in my experience, is that okay, you've got a full beard. We want to trim your beard, but we want to do it.
Yeah,
so
we'll
leave
Right.
your
Yeah.
beard. We will trim it on set
Right.
if you say it's okay.
Right.
But we need to know that you will trim your beard before you get to
Right,
set.
right.
Right.
And
So-
usually, I'm sorry, it comes up when they're still in the casting room. So
Right.
we might hold the people outside, and I'll say, Cherise, can you make sure that he's cool with whatever, or don't
Right.
shave his beard, or, until we know.
Cool. All right. Now that we have that all settled,
The only, do we still have time?
Yeah, of course.
course.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. The other thing, and I don't know, because this is me being the producer, and I was talking to you about this in the parking lot. I've always operated in the way that when a talent is booked, usually it's the production company's responsibility to fill in the agency's contract. So they'll send us their contracts
Right.
with all the information.
and we're talking about a SAG job.
A SAG job, yes. And it's got all the information, the rate, the type of player they're going to be, who the advertiser is, so on and so forth. And there might be some clauses in there,
Mm-hmm.
stipulations. I've always sent a copy of the contract to the agent of the person who we've booked.
Always the best way to handle
So
it.
the agent can review the contract with their client prior to coming on the set, because another thing I've run into through the years, the agent hasn't discussed the contract or the terms with the talent.
And the agent has approved it to you.
Yes. But the talent has a problem with it. So and they won't, if a talent goes on camera and camera rolls and you've got a take, that actress or actor has committed to be on camera.
Correct.
So if they have an issue with the contract, we don't roll. We don't put that person on camera until it's ironed out with all the parties are happy. So usually it's the actor saying, I got to call my agent. Well, hopefully the agent's there.
Yeah, it's midnight.
Right.
It's midnight, or we've started at 7:00 in the morning. And I also always try to get a cell phone number,
Right.
which the actor should have too. They should have every kind of contact information
That's really good advice.
Yeah,
You know,
that
I've
is
never
great
really
advice.
thought that's
for
really
their
good
agents.
advice.
They should be able to get a hold of their agents 24 hours a day, because there
That's-
could be a problem, and
Yeah.
that holds it up. I've had people, I'm not going on until I hear from my agent, and every 5 minutes. Have you heard from your agent? Have you heard?
Right, right.
And maybe the agent's gotten back in half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever it is. That time's really expensive.
Sure.
You know,
I find that that's even more true with the non-guild projects that we're working on, is because they can sneak so many things into the contract. I almost every time I'm doing it, try to get the contract from the agency before shoot, send it to the agents, make sure they sign off on it, make sure everything is exactly correct. Because SAG contracts, there's a similar, it's one standard contract, and most agents know what the terms and conditions are. And there are boxes on the back that are certain things that they won't let you sign off on, that the agency is trying to get through. But contracts for a non-guild project can be anything.
yeah.
But
it's you've got to, if you don't know something, ask again. But it's really good. I think if I were a talent, I would want to know what I'm getting paid and what my holding fees or whatever it's going to be. I want to know that.
Sure.
So how would you mitigate that? So let's say it's Monday, you get the contracts to the agent by the end of day Monday. The talent is shooting Tuesday. So are you asking the agents to confirm that they have in fact spoken to the talent? Because sometimes they'll just say yes, it's fine, right? They'll just kind of blow it off, right? Everything's good.
I always make sure, as much as I can, in production, we always try to make sure that everything is good to go.
And this is just one of your headaches. You've got so many other headaches that you're having to deal with. You wish that you didn't have to deal with this one.
Right.
And it's something that actors can prevent by, and also casting directors can prevent by getting the contracts to the agents early.
Well, I try. I mean, you must try too.
Sure.
And sometimes you don't have it until very close to the shoot anyway. And it could be weeks after we've finished a job before the contracts actually are ready to go. So as much as I love to get it to my people prior, it's not always in the scheduling of it.
But with the casting directors, right, you're right. But for production, once your talent is booked, you've got the agent information.
Right.
And that's always been my practice, is to get the contract out so everybody's squared away.
Right.
But do be able to get a hold of your agent. If there's a problem, they need to be standing by. They should be standing by anyhow. If they have a talent on set,
absolutely,
or on a job, they should be accessible. And does that happen? No offense to agents if anybody's listening, but a lot of times it hasn't been. And again, you say it's true. It could be late at night. Maybe something was forgotten. Maybe you said something about smoke. There's clauses. There's bumps, as we call them.
Right. Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, if you're working with smoke or fog or dry ice or
if you're driving, or if it's anything other than just sitting in front of the camera and talking, that you being a SAG, and I'm talking SAG Screen Actors Guild, there's bumps in there for you.
Right. There's clauses.
Sometimes, and this is a good example, something will come up and they'll say, hey, you know what? The client will say, you know what? Let's take that person from that scene and put him to this scene. And this scene might have something totally different, which might have smoke, or it might have something that...
Working with animals.
Or something.
Right.
Working with kids. No, I'm kidding. That are sometimes in them. No. So, they need to be accessible. They need to be...
I want to go back a little bit, and from your point of view, talk about the idea of, if you are booked for a specific skill, how often are you going to do it on a shoot? In other words, if you have a specific skill, like you're doing sit-ups or doing something like that, how many times are they going to do that on the set?
How many takes?
How many takes is it going to be?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, it depends upon how they're doing the sit-ups, and if there's light blocking you when you're going, there's so many things that can happen that's hard to say.
So you can do the sit-ups, but from various angles. And,
right. Right.
Or a body part might not look good the way that person's doing the sit-ups, so now they've got to re-choreograph the movement. So you never know.
Right. My point being is that actors have to be prepared to do something more than once.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know.
Oh yeah.
Often hundreds of times.
Oh yeah.
I had a spot where I was in my late 20s and I had to pick up a 3-year-old child and put him on my shoulders. And by the end of the day, I was slumped over. I was like, hold on a sec, I got to catch my breath here. It was, to do it once was nothing. To do it 40 or 50 times, it's pretty enervating.
And how understanding are the people in production when it's a sport or an activity and the actor's just like, Okay, give me a breather. I'm sweating. I'm out of breath. I can't do this. I need a moment.
Oh, you have to respect that because it's going to show up on camera. You know, you've got to respect that. If somebody can't do something, I mean, I had that with a Olympic athlete, a runner, and it was, I'm not going to name the product or the runner, but we had him on a treadmill because he was on green screen. It was green screen, and we had to have the motion of running.
Right.
And I mean, he could only do it for, and he's an Olympic athlete,
Right.
but he could only do it for so long. You know, you're human. So
Right.
we're really, we treat, in my experience, actors and animals are all taken care of very well. You have to, because you're the product, basically, you know?
Sorry, I did a commercial with Spuds McKenzie.
I used to produce those.
With
Bob
Bob
Eggers.
Eggers.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you
I
did.
was,
Yeah.
I was on one of those too.
Were you?
Yeah, I was probably on your job. And Spuds, which was a female, she was a pole vaulter that day.
And we had,
And we were at
we had
the Coliseum or something. I can't remember where. She was a pole vaulter.
yeah, but we also had a dummy dog. I don't think that was the same job, but go ahead.
Anyway,
sorry.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, the dog was being treated better than we
Oh.
were.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you something.
The dog had a full trailer, air conditioning, I mean, everything. We were like hot standing in the sun.
Her name
There's
was
a-
Elsie. She, you know, she had no personality, that dog. And this is before the American Humane Society had set reps that come and monitor.
Oh yeah. So
You know,
now when you're working with an animal,
You
somebody
have to
shows
have
up.
that if you want to have at the end of your, it's mainly in feature. Well, they do it in commercials, but in features you have, you know, at the end of the credits, it says no animal was harmed by
in the
blah, blah, blah.
production of this.
Well, this was before we had people on, and they would do like drop-ins, you know, once in a while. And we were doing a job with her, and the Humane Society came and they said, we heard that you're mistreating the dog. Now, first of all, that dog had no personality. I mean, she was sweet, but she had no, she would be a great poker dog. You know, she would shitload of money. She had no anything. And so we would have to give the Humane Society urine specimens to prove that we weren't drugging her.
Oh,
wow.
So we'd
Oh,
have to get her
wow.
to pee. They'd have, I mean, I don't remember how it worked exactly, but yeah, I mean,
That's wild.
and the animals are treated really well. They have to be, you know, but that's the way the human talent should be treated as well. And if something is happening on set that you're uncomfortable with, you have to say something. You know, if you're hungry or you feel like you're going to pass out or your shoes are too tight or
And just
whatever
in
it
an,
is.
and just in an etiquette mode, who should the actor talk to in that respect? Should they talk to you, the producer? Should they talk to the second AD?
They should who's ever on set. I mean, if it depends where they are. You know, if they're on set, they should talk to the second AD or the first AD. If they're not on set, you know, let me speak to the producer, or it's usually the AD or the producer.
Right.
But
right.
you've got to let people know. I mean, I had somebody who had an epileptic seizure, and she knew.
We're down to 2 minutes.
Okay, she just knew she was epileptic. She didn't tell anybody. So those kind of things, so people could keep you
Right.
good.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
We're down to our final 2 minutes. Is there anything, Charisse, anything else you want to cover with Francine as I stumble through that?
Gosh, I don't know. I just thank you for being here. Though.
Thanks for having
I would
me.
love to have you again. I'm sure
Anytime.
we could talk for days on
I
this
have
subject.
such stories.
Yeah.
I would like to talk to you another time about kids and their parents.
That's a whole nother ball.
That's a whole show, right?
That's
So
a whole show.
Can we get you to commit to come
Absolutely,
back?
absolutely.
Oh, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
So, hi everybody. So don't forget to ask your questions. We like to hear what you're getting out of it, but what you're not, what questions you have about the business that we're not covering yet. And as you know, it's an unscripted discussion. So come join the conversation.
I just want to say thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
And you can get a hold of Charisse at Charisse Glenn Casting, or she has a blog, which is
TheLetGo.com. It's about letting go of all the stuff we no longer need to hold on to, and that's a whole nother conversation.
It's a great blog.
and
you.
I am reachable through castingbrothers.com. So you can reach me there. I teach classes. If anybody's interested, I teach a 1-day commercial intensive
On
on
Saturdays.
Saturdays. It goes all day. We cover all the ABCs of what you need to do to start working as an actor. And
Great.
Francine, we can get a hold of you on the internet, right?
Yes, you can.
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Oh, we can find her somewhere.
All right.
Thank you. Well, it's a wrap.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Well, we've got 8 seconds. So anybody want to sing a song? Tell a joke? No? Okay. All right. Well, then we'll just say good night and good luck.
Goodbye.
Good night.
That was fun.
Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.